Section 17 of Psychology of the Unconscious by Carl Jung. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Section 17, Chapter 5, Part 1 of Symbolism of the Mother and of Rebirth. The vision following the creation of the hero is described by Miss Miller as a throng of people. This representation is known to us from dream interpretation as being, above all, the symbol of mystery. Freud thinks that this choice of symbol is determined on account of its possibility of representing the idea. The bearer of the mystery is placed in opposition to the multitude of the ignorant. The possession of the mystery cuts one off from intercourse with the rest of mankind. For a very complete and smooth rapport with the surroundings is of great importance for the management of the libido, and the possession of a subjectively important secret generally creates a great disturbance. It may be said that the whole art of life shrinks to the one problem of how the libido may be freed in the most harmless way possible. Therefore the neurotic derives special benefit in treatment when he can at last rid himself of his various secrets. The symbol of the crowd of people, chiefly the streaming and moving mass, is, as I have often seen, substituted for the great excitement in the unconscious, especially in persons who are outwardly calm. The vision of the throng develops further. Horses emerge. A battle is fought. With Silberer, I might accept the significance of this vision as belonging, first of all, in the functional category, because fundamentally the conception of the intermingling crowds is nothing but the symbol of the present onrush of the mass of thought. Likewise the battle, and possibly the horses, which illustrate the movement. The deeper significance of the appearance of the horses will be seen for the first time in the further course of our treatment of the mother symbolism. The following vision has a more definite and significantly important character. Miss Miller sees a city of dreams, Cité de Rêve. The picture is similar to one she saw a short time before on the cover of a magazine. Unfortunately, we learn nothing further about it. One can easily imagine, under this Cité de Rêve, a fulfilled wish dream, that is to say, something very beautiful and greatly longed for, a sort of heavenly Jerusalem, as the poet of the Apocalypse has dreamed it. The city is a maternal symbol, a woman who fosters the inhabitants as children. It is therefore intelligible that the two mother goddesses, Rhea and Cybele, both wear the wall crown. The Old Testament treats the cities of Jerusalem, Babel, etc., as women. Isaiah 47:1-5. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground, there is no throne. O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. Take the millstones and grind meal. Uncover thy locks, make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers, that thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen. Sit thou silent and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called the lady of the kingdoms. Jeremiah says of Babel, 50:12, Your mother shall be sore confounded, she that bare you shall be ashamed. Strong, unconquered cities are virgins, colonies are sons and daughters, cities are also whores. Isaiah says of Tyre, 23:16, Take an harp, go about the city, thou harlot, thou hast been forgotten. And how does it come to pass that the virtuous city has become an harlot? We come across a similar symbolism in the myth of Ogyges, the mythical king who rules in Egyptian Thebes, and whose wife was appropriately named Thebe. The Boeotian Thebes, founded by Cadmus, received on that account a surname, Ogygian. This surname was also given to the great flood, as it was called Ogygian, because it occurred under Ogyges. This coincidence will be found later on to be hardly accidental. The fact that the city and the wife of Ogyges bear the same name indicates that somewhere a relation must exist between the city and the woman, which is not difficult to understand, for the city is identical with the woman. We meet a similar idea in Hindu lore, where Indra appears as the husband of Urvara, but Urvara means the fertile land. In a similar way, the occupancy of a country by the king was understood as marriage with the plowed land. Similar representations must have prevailed in Europe as well. Princes had to guarantee, for example, a good harvest at their accession. The Swedish king Domaldi was actually killed on account of the failure of the harvest. Ynglinga Saga 18. In the Rama Saga, the hero Rama marries Sita, the furrow of the field. To the same group of ideas belongs the Chinese custom of the emperor plowing a furrow at his ascension to the throne. This idea of the soil being feminine also embraces the idea of continual companionship with the woman, of physical communication. Shiva, the phallic god, is like Mahadeva and Parvati, male and female. He has even given one half of his body to his consort Parvati as a dwelling place. Inman gives us a drawing of a Pandite of Ardhanari Iswara. One half of the god is masculine, the other half feminine, and the genitals are in continuous cohabitation. The motive of continuous cohabitation is expressed in a well-known lingam symbol, which is to be found everywhere in Indian temples. The base is a female symbol, and within that is the phallus. The symbol approaches very closely the Grecian mystic phallic basket and chests. Compare with this the Eleusinian mysteries. The chest or box is here a female symbol, that is the mother's womb. This is a very well-known conception in the old mythologies. The chest, basket, or little basket with its precious contents was thought of as floating on the water, a remarkable inversion of the natural fact that the child floats in the amniotic fluid, and that this is in the uterus. This inversion brings about a great advantage for sublimation, for it creates enormous possibilities of application for the myth-weaving fantasy, that is to say, for the annexation to the sun cycle. The sun floats over the sea like an immortal god, which every evening is immersed in the maternal water, and is born again renewed in the morning. Frobenius says, perhaps in connection with the blood-red sunrise, the idea occurs that here a birth takes place, the birth of a young son. The question then arises inevitably, whence comes the paternity? How has the woman become pregnant? And since this woman symbolizes the same idea as the fish, which means the sea, because we proceed from the assumption that the sun descends into the sea as well as arises from it, thus the curious primitive answer is that this sea has previously swallowed the old sun. Consequently, the resulting myth is that the woman sea has formerly devoured the sun, and now brings a new son into the world, and thus she has become pregnant. All these sea-going gods are sun symbols. They are enclosed in a chest or an ark for the night journey on the sea. Frobenius, often together with a woman, again an inversion of the actual situation, but in support of the motive of continuous cohabitation which we have met above. During the night journey on the sea, the sun god is enclosed in the mother's womb, oftentimes threatened by dangers of all kinds. Instead of many individual examples, I will content myself with reproducing the scheme which Frobenius has constructed from numberless myths of this sort. To devour, west, east, heat hair, to slip out, to open to land, west to east movement, sea journey, she journey to set on fire, or to cut off the heart. Frobenius gives the following legend to illustrate this. A hero is devoured by a water monster in the west. To devour. The animal carries him within him to the east, sea journey. Meanwhile he kindles a fire in the belly of the monster to set on fire. And since he feels hungry, he cuts off a piece of the hanging heart to cut off the heart. Soon after, he notices that the fish glides upon the dry land. To land, he immediately begins to cut open the animal from within outwards, to open. Then he slides out, to slip out. In the fish's belly it had been so hot that all his hair had fallen out, heat hair. The hero frequently frees all who were previously devoured, to devour all, and all now slide out, slip out. A very close parallel is Noah's journey during the flood, in which all living creatures die. Only he and the life guarded by him are brought to a new birth. In a Melopolynesian legend, Frobenius, it is told that the hero in the belly of the king fish took his weapon and cut open the fish's belly. He slid out and saw a splendor, and he sat down and reflected. I wonder where I am, he said. Then the sun rose with a bound and turned from one side to the other. The sun has again slipped out. Frobenius mentions from the Ramayana the myth of the ape Hanuman, who represents the sun hero. The sun, in which Hanuman hurries through the air, throws a shadow upon the sea. The sea monster notices this, and through this draws Hanuman toward itself. When the latter sees that the monster is about to devour him, he stretches out his figure immeasurably. The monster assumes the same gigantic proportions. As he does that, Hanuman becomes as small as a thumb, slips into the great body of the monster, and comes out on the other side. In another part of the poem, it is said that he came out from the right ear of the monster, like Rabelais Gargantua, who also was born from the mother's ear. Hanuman thereupon resumes his flight and finds a new obstacle in another sea monster, which is the mother of Rahus, the sun-devouring demon. The latter draws Hanuman's shadow to her in the same way. Hanuman again has recourse to the earlier stratagem, becomes small and slips into her body. But hardly is he there than he grows to a gigantic mass, swells up, tears her, kills her, and in that way makes his escape. Thus we understand why the Indian fire-bringer Matarikvan is called the one swelling in the mother. The ark, little box, chest, cask, vessel, etc., is a symbol of the womb, just as is the sea, into which the sun sinks for rebirth. From this circle of ideas we understand the mythologic statements about Gyges. He it is who possesses the mother, the city, who is united with the mother. Therefore under him came the great flood, for it is a typical fragment of the sun myth that the hero, when united with the woman attained with difficulty, is exposed in a cask and thrown into the sea, and then lands for a new life on a distant shore. The middle part, the night journey on the sea in the ark, is lacking in the tradition of Gyges. But the rule in mythology is that the typical parts of a myth can be united in all conceivable variations, which adds greatly to the extraordinary difficulty of the interpretation of a particular myth without knowledge of all the others. The meaning of this cycle of myths mentioned here is clear. It is the longing to attain rebirth through the return to the mother's womb, that is to say, to become as immortal as the sun. This longing for the mother is frequently expressed in our Holy Scriptures. I recall particularly the place in the Epistle to the Galatians, where it is said, 4:26, But Jerusalem which is above is free, which is the mother of us all. 27, For it is written, Rejoice, thou barren that beareth not, break forth and cry, thou that travailest not, for the desolate hath many more children than she which hath an husband. 28, Now we, brethren, as Isaac was, are the children of promise. 29, But as he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the spirit, even so it is now. 30, Nevertheless, what saith the Scripture? Cast out the bondwoman and her son, for the son of a bondwoman shall not be heir with the son of a free woman. 31, So then, brethren, we are not children of the bondwoman, but of the free. Chapter 5, 1, Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ has made us free. The Christians are the children of the city above, a symbol of the mother, not sons of the earthly city mother, who is to be cast out, for those born after the flesh are opposed to those born after the spirit, who are not born from the mother in the flesh, but from a symbol for the mother. One must again think of the Indians at this point, who say the first people proceeded from the sword hilt and a shuttle. The religious thought is bound up with the compulsion to call the mother no longer mother, but city, source, sea, etc. This compulsion can be derived from the need to manifest an amount of libido bound up with the mother, but in such a way that the mother is represented by or concealed in a symbol. The symbolism of the city we find well developed in the Revelations of John, where two cities play a great part, one of which is insulted and cursed by him, the other greatly desired. We read in Revelation 17:1, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth on many waters. 2. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. 3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit on a scarlet-colored beast, full of the names of blasphemy, and having 7 heads and 10 horns. 4. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet colors, and decked with gold and precious stones of pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. 5. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. 6. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with a great admiration. Here follows an interpretation of the vision, unintelligible to us, from which we can only emphasize the point that the 7 heads of the dragon means the 7 hills upon which the woman sits. This is probably a distinct allusion to Rome, the city whose temporal power oppressed the world at the time of the Revelation. The waters upon which the woman, the mother, sits are peoples and throngs and nations and tongues. This also seems to refer to Rome, for she is the mother of peoples and possessed all lands. Just as in common speech, for example, colonies are called daughters, so the people subject to Rome are like members of a family subject to the mother. In another version of the picture, the kings of the people, namely the fathers, commit fornication with this mother. Revelation continues, 18:2. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. 3. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Thus this mother does not only become the mother of all abominations, but also in truth the receptacle of all that is wicked and unclean. The birds are images of souls, therefore this means all souls of the condemned and evil spirits. Thus the mother becomes Hecate, the underworld, the city of the damned itself. We recognize easily in the ancient idea of the woman on the dragon the above-mentioned representation of Echnida, the mother of the infernal horrors. Babylon is the idea of the terrible mother who seduces all people to whoredom with devilish temptation, and makes them drunk with her wine. The intoxicating drink stands in the closest relation to fornication, for it is also a libido symbol, as we have already seen in the parallel of fire and sun. After the fall and curse of Babylon, we find in Revelation 19:6-7 the hymn which leads from the under half to the upper half of the mother, where now everything is possible which would be impossible without the repression of incest. 6. Alleluia, the Lord God omnipotent reigneth. 7. Let us be glad and rejoice, and give honor to him, for the marriage of the Lamb is come, and his wife hath made herself ready. 8. And to her was granted that she should be arrayed in fine linen, clean and white, for the fine linen is the righteousness of saints. 9. And he saith unto me, Write, Blessed are they which are called unto the marriage supper of the Lamb. The Lamb is the Son of Man, who celebrates his marriage with the woman. Who the woman is remains obscure at first, but Revelation 21:9 shows us which woman is the bride, the Lamb's wife. 9. Come hither, I will show thee the bride, the Lamb's wife. 10. And he carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, having the glory of God. It is evident from this quotation after all that goes before, that the city, the heavenly bride, who is here promised to the Son, is the mother. In Babylon the impure maid was cast out, according to the epistle to the Galatians, so that here in heavenly Jerusalem the mother bride may be attained the more surely. It bears witness to the most delicate psychologic perception that the fathers of the Church, who formulated the canons, preserve this bit of the symbolic significance of the Christ mystery. It is a treasure house for the fantasies and myth materials which underlie primitive Christianity. The further attributes which were heaped upon the heavenly Jerusalem make its significance as mother overwhelmingly clear. 1. And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb. 2. In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of nations. 3. And there shall be no more curse. In this quotation we come upon the symbol of the waters which we found in the mention of Ogyges in connection with the city. The maternal significance of water belongs to the clearest symbolism in the realm of mythology, so that the ancients could say in Greek, "The sea is the symbol of birth." From water comes life. Therefore, of the two gods which here interest us the most, Christ and Mithra, the latter was born beside a river, according to representations, while Christ experienced his new birth in the Jordan. Moreover, he is born from the Themin, the sempiterni fons amoris, the mother of God, who by the heathen Christian legend was made a nymph of the spring. The spring is also found in Mithricism. A Pannonian dedication reads, Fonti perenni. An inscription in Apulia is dedicated to the Fons Aeterni. In Persia, Ardwicura is the well of the water of life. Ardwicura Anahita is a goddess of water and love, just as Aphrodite is born from foam. The Neo-Persians designate the planet Venus and a nubile girl by the name Nahid. In the temples of Anaitis there existed prostitute Hierodules, harlots. In the Sakain, in honor of Anaitis, there occurred ritual combats as in the festival of the Egyptian Ares and his mother. In the Vedas the waters are called Matritama, the most maternal. All that is living rises, as does the sun, from the water, and at evening plunges into the water. Born from the springs, the rivers, the seas, at death man arrives at the waters of the Styx, in order to enter upon the night journey on the sea. The wish is that the black water of death might be the water of life, that death with its cold embrace might be the mother's womb, just as the sea devours the sun, but brings it forth again out of the maternal womb. Jonah motive. Life believes not in death. In the flood of life, in the torrents of deeds, I toss up and down. I am blown to and fro, cradle and grave, an eternal sea, a changing web, a glowing life. Goethe, Faust. The Etenabon, the wood of life, or the tree of life, is a maternal symbol which would seem to follow from the previous deductions. The etymologic connection of tau ton bios in the Indo-Germanic root suggests the blending of the meanings in the underlying symbolism of mother and of generation. The tree of life is probably, first of all, a fruit-bearing genealogical tree, that is, a mother image. Countless myths prove the derivation of man from trees. Many myths show how the hero is enclosed in the maternal tree, thus dead Osiris in the column, Adonis in the myrtle, etc. Numerous female divinities were worshipped as trees, from which resulted the cult of the holy groves and trees. It is of transparent significance when Attis castrates himself under a pine tree, that is, he does it because of the mother. Goddesses were often worshipped in the form of a tree or of a wood. Thus Juno of Thespii was a branch of a tree, Juno of Samos was a board, Juno of Argos was a column, the Carian Diana was an uncut piece of wood, Athena of Lindus was a polished column. Tertullian calls Ceres of Pharos, Brutus Pallas et informe lignum sine effigy. Athenaeus remarks of Latona at Dalos that she is anaton anthropos, a shapeless piece of wood. Tertullian calls an Attic palace crucistippus, a wooden pale or mast. The wooden pale is phallic, as the name suggests. Palthon, palace. The palace is a pale, a ceremonial lingam carved out of figwood, as are all Roman statues of Priapus. Pathos means a projection or centerpiece on the helmet, later called panos, just as avananamathias signifies bald-headedness on the fore part of the head, and thanalapas signifies bald-headedness in regard to the pathos nonymos of the helmet. A semi-phallic meaning is given to the upper part of the head as well. Palapanos has, besides palathos, the significance of wooden paus anaios, cylinder, palalos, a round beam. The Macedonian battle array, distinguished by its powerful impetus, is called palathos. Moreover, the finger joint is called palalois. Palathotos is a whale. Now pathos appears with the meaning shining, brilliant. The Indo-Germanic root is bala, equals to bulge, to swell. Who does not think of Faust? It grows, it shines, increases in my hand. That is primitive libido symbolism, which shows how immediate is the connection between phallic libido and light. The same relations are found in the Rig Veda in Rudra's utterances. Rig Veda 1:114:3. May we obtain your favor, thou man ruling, O urinating Rudra. I refer here to the previously mentioned phallic symbolism of Rudra in the Upanishads. 4. We call for help below, to the flaming Rudra, to the one bringing the sacrifice, him who encircles and wanders, wandering in the vault of heaven, to the seer. 233.5. He who opens up the sweet, who listens to our calls, the ruddy one with the beautiful helmet, may he not give us over to the powers of jealousy. 6. I have been rejoiced by the bull connected with Marut, the supplicating one with strong force of life. 8. Sound the powerful song of praise to the ruddy bull, to the white shining one. Worship the flaming one with honor. We sing of the shining being Rudra. May Rudra's missile arrow not be used on us. May the great displeasure of the shining one pass us by. Unbend the firm bow or hard arrow for the princes. Thou who blessest with the waters of thy body generative strength, be gracious to our children and grandchildren. In this way we pass from the realm of mother symbolism imperceptibly into the realm of male phallic symbolism. This element also lies in the tree, even in the family tree, as is distinctly shown by the medieval family trees. From the first ancestor there grows upward, in the place of the membrum virile, the trunk of the great tree. The bisexual symbolic character of the tree is intimated by the fact that in Latin trees have a masculine termination and a feminine gender. The feminine, especially the maternal, meaning of the forest, and the phallic significance of trees in dreams is well known. I mention an example. It concerns a woman who had always been nervous, and who, after many years of marriage, became ill as a result of the typical retention of the libido. She had the following dream after she had learned to know a young man of many engaging free opinions who was very pleasing to her. She found herself in a garden where stood a remarkable exotic tree with strange red fleshy flowers or fruits. She picked them and ate them. Then, to her horror, she felt that she was poisoned. This dream idea may easily be understood by means of the antique or poetic symbolism, so I can spare information as to the analytic material. The double significance of the tree is readily explained by the fact that such symbols are not to be understood anatomically, but psychologically, as libido symbols. Therefore it is not permissible to interpret the tree, on account of its similar form, as directly phallic. It can also be called a woman, or the uterus of the mother. The uniformity of the significance lies alone in the similarity to the libido. One loses one's way in one cul-de-sac after another by saying that this is the symbol substituted for the mother and that for the penis. In this realm there is no fixed significance of things. The only reality here is the libido, for which all that is perishable is merely a symbol. It is not the physical, actual mother, but the libido of the son, the object of which was once the mother. We take mythologic symbols much too concretely, and wonder at every step about the endless contradictions. These contradictions arise only because we constantly forget that in the realm of fantasy feeling is all. Whenever we read, therefore, his mother was a wicked sorcerer, the translation is as follows: the son is in love with her, namely, he is unable to detach his libido from the mother imago. He therefore suffers from incestuous resistance. The symbolism of water and trees, which are met with as further attributes in the symbol of the city, also refer to that amount of libido which unconsciously is fastened to the mother imago. In certain parts of Revelation, the unconscious psychology of religious longing is revealed, namely, the longing for the mother. The expectation of revelation ends in the mother. Nai path atnavaita ona athases, and there shall be no more curse. There shall be no more sins, no repression, no disharmony with oneself, no guilt, no fear of death, and no pain of separation more. Thus Revelation echoes that same radiant mystical harmony which was caught again 2000 years later and expressed poetically in the last prayer of Dr. Marianus. Penitents, look up elate, where she beams salvation, gratefully to blessed fate grow in recreation. Be our souls as they have been, dedicate to thee, Virgin, Holy Mother Queen, Goddess gracious be. Goethe, Faust. One principal question arises at the sight of this beauty and greatness of feeling, that is, whether the primary tendency compensated by religion is not too narrowly understood as incestuous. I have previously observed in regard to this that I consider the resistance opposed to libido as in a general way coincident with the incest prohibition. I must leave open for the present the definition of the psychological incest conception. However, I will here emphasize the point that it is most especially the totality of the son myth which proves to us that the fundamental basis of the incestuous desire does not aim at cohabitation, but at the special thought of becoming a child again, of turning back to the parent's protection, of coming into the mother once more in order to be born again. But incest stands in the path to this goal, that is to say, the necessity of in some way again gaining entrance into the mother's womb. One of the simplest ways would be to impregnate the mother, and to reproduce one's self identically, but here the incest prohibition interferes. Therefore the myths of the son or of rebirth teem with all possible proposals as to how incest can be evaded. A very simple method of avoidance is to transform the mother into another being, or to rejuvenate her after birth has occurred, to have her disappear again, or have her change back. It is not incestuous cohabitation which is desired, but the rebirth, which now is attained most readily through cohabitation. But this is not the only way, although perhaps the original one. The resistance to the incest prohibition makes the fantasy inventive. For example, it was attempted to impregnate the mother by means of a magic charm of fertility to wish for a child. Attempts in this respect remain in the stage of mythical fantasies, but they have one result, and that is the exercise of the fantasy, which gradually produces paths through the creation of fantastic possibilities in which the libido, taking an active part, can flow off. Thus the libido becomes spiritualized in an imperceptible manner. The power which always wishes evil thus creates a spiritual life. Therefore, in religions, this course is now raised to a system. On that account it is exceedingly instructive to see how religion takes pains to further these symbolic transferences. The New Testament furnishes us with an excellent example in regard to this. Nicodemus, in the speech regarding rebirth, cannot forbear understanding the matter very realistically. John 3:4. How can a man be born when he is old? Can he enter a second time into his mother's womb and be born? But Jesus endeavors to raise into purity the sensuous view of Nicodemus's mind, molded in materialistic heaviness, and announces to him really the same, and yet not the same. 5. Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born of water and of the Spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of God. 6. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. 7. Marvel not that I said unto thee, ye must be born again. 8. The wind bloweth where it listeth, and thou hearest the sound thereof, but canst not tell whence it cometh, and whither it goeth. So is every one that is born of the Spirit. To be born of water means simply to be born from the mother's womb. To be born of the Spirit means to be born from the fructifying breath of the wind. This we learn from the Greek text, where spirit and wind are expressed by the same word, panathawa. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. The Spirit bloweth where it listeth. This symbolism rose from the same need as that which produced the Egyptian legend of the vultures, the mother symbol. They were only females and were fertilized by the wind. One recognizes very clearly the ethical demand as the foundation of these mythologic assertions. Thou must say of the mother that she was not impregnated by a mortal in the ordinary way, but by a spiritual being in an unusual manner. This demand stands in strict opposition to the real truth. Therefore the myth is a fitting solution. One can say it was a hero who died and was born again in a remarkable manner, and in this way attained immortality. The need which this demand asserts is evidently a prohibition against a definite fantasy concerning the mother. A son may naturally think that a father has generated him in a carnal way, but not that he himself impregnated the mother, and so caused himself to be born again into renewed youth. This incestuous fantasy, which for some reason possesses an extraordinary strength, and therefore appears as a compulsory wish, is repressed, and conforming to the above demand, under certain conditions, expresses itself again symbolically concerning the problem of birth, or rather concerning individual rebirth from the mother. In Jesus' challenge to Nicodemus we clearly recognize this tendency. Think not carnally, or thou art carnal, but think symbolically, then art thou spirit. It is evident how extremely educative and developing this compulsion toward symbolism can be. Nicodemus would remain fixed in low commonplaces if he did not succeed in raising himself through symbols above this repressed incestuous desire. As a righteous Philistine of culture, he probably was not very anxious for this effort, because men seem really to remain satisfied in repressing the incestuous libido, and at best to express it by some modest religious exercises. Yet it seems to be important, on the other side, that man should not merely renounce and repress and thereby remain firmly fixed in the incestuous bond, but that he should redeem those dynamic forces which lie bound up in incest in order to fulfill himself. For man needs his whole libido to fill out the boundaries of his personality, and then for the first time he is in a condition to do his best. The paths by which man may manifest his incestuously fixed libido seem to have been pointed out by the religious mythologic symbols. On this account Jesus teaches Nicodemus, thou thinkest of thy incestuous wish for rebirth, but thou must think that thou art born from the water, and that thou art generated by the breath of the wind, and in this way thou shalt share in eternal life. End of Section 17.